What's up, party people, and welcome to Stoniecast number 169 and season 5, episode 31 of Thoughts and Hunches, Making Money in Bunches and Sucker Punches. It's your boy Stony coming back at you for the 169th time. Wow, still can't believe it. And I'd like to welcome all of my fellow scumbags, criminals, hoodlums, lowlifes, shady characters, scoundrels, heathens, altar boys with unhealthy relationships with their priests, hustlers, wise guys, foul-mouthed raging alcoholics, MLB players that have got into a fight with Bryce Harper. You know who you are, and thanks for watching. Cheats, gangsters, fienders with abusive language, and degenerates. Let's face it, anybody with a massive gambling problem. If you're new to the show, hey, congrats. That means you probably fit into one or a few of those categories, so welcome, because you're now one of us. One of us. Gooba gobble, one of us. Sorry, sometimes I get a little carried away there. Make sure to hit the subscribe button right down here in the lower right-hand corner. Ring that bell. That way you can get notified every time I put out a new video. To spread the word's also very easy. Just tell other scumbags and degenerates, like Josh, to go to YouTube and enter Thoughts and Hunches in the search bar. That'll take you directly to my page, so that way you can get dialed into everything I give you. Also, if you're new and you don't know what's what with this channel, it's college and pro football winners, MLB playoff winners, and college basketball winners. Everything's over now, except for college basketball. This is it. End of the season. The books, they don't expect a guy like me to deliver this many winners, right? I go to the mattresses every single week, and I get you the info in order to get you to the window with a ticket to cash. I'm an outlier and I'm a disruptor. I'm like the Beastie Boys. I disrupt.
Step inside the party, disrupt the whole scene.
Exactly what I do. Right? Now, before I get onto the picks, as usual, I usually have thoughts. No real thoughts this week. It's more programming because I got 31 games to get to now. So, anyway, Al, take it away.
Give me all you got. Listen, give me all you got.
Here we go. That's what we needed. Okay, for those of you that are into your brackets and want to know who I have, you're barking up the wrong tree. I truly think the second worst thing to hear from someone this time of year is, my bracket is all busted up because so-and-so lost in the first round. That's behind only my fantasy team is fill in the blank. The first thing you have to realize is that nobody gives a shit about your bracket and the $10 buy-in tournament that might net you $40. I realize that's a big payday for high rollers like Cruz, but I ain't here to talk about brackets. I'm here to break down every single game in the entire tournament and give you my picks on sides and totals for every single one. If you even bring up the term confidence bracket, or even worse, the god-awful sheet of integrity, then I have no time for you at all. I just don't. I've been a fan of Scott Farrell on the radio for over 30 years. Then I listen to him religiously. His sidekick, Mike Carver, brings it up every day, and Farrell feeds into it with the rights holder of the sheet of integrity. Enough is enough. Good Lord. We don't care about your brackets, right? The only bummer is that there's only 6 more Stoniecasts, counting this one, before this season ends. So if there was ever a time to make up your losses for the year, Cruz, or in my case, double up, now's the time. For programming, another video on Saturday morning for round 2, next Wednesday for the Sweet 16, next Saturday for the Elite 8, and then a Final Four and National Championship Stoniecasts. That's all you get. Now, as for the week that was, going into last Saturday, I was already at 59, 44, and 2 on the week, which was good. And Saturday didn't do much to improve that with a 10 and 10 day, which made Selection Sunday that much more important, and I did not disappoint. A perfect 5-0 on sides and 3-2 on totals for an 8-2 finish to the week, which was the perfect capper to another very good week. Let's take a peek at the numbers. Last week, 79 wins, 54 losses, 2 pushes. That's good for 59.4%. Just another excellent week. It's what I do. NCAA basketball regular season is now over as far as I'm concerned. Yes, I included the conference tournaments in with that, but the regular season's now over. 916 wins, 666 losses, 20 pushes, 57.9%. That's a great way to end the regular season as we now start over with tournament records. So overall, every pick that I've given you in every sport of all 30 Stoniecasts dating back to August. 1,392 wins, 1,005 losses, 27 pushes. 58.07%. Over 58. That's the key. That's where I wanted to be 2,400 picks ago. And that means only one thing.
Pay him. Pay that man his money.
Now, please remember that all these picks are 100% free. So for all the touts out there that are giving you 75 to 80% winners, come on. We all know you're full of shit. Plus, you're charging for these picks. I mean, really?
Oh!
Yeah, that just doesn't work. That doesn't work. With me, all you got to do is come to YouTube every week, and I'll drop my plays on you for free. Now, as for this week, I started off the week yesterday, was the first day of the betting week, going 3-0-1 in the NCAA first 4 games yesterday, and 3-4 in the NIT for a 6-4-1 night, which I hope will continue because, yes, that's 60% if you're keeping track. Tonight, I just hit Mount St. Mary's and the over, right? Right, both of them. So, and I'm 2-1 on the NIT up to this point as I'm watching Texas and Xavier get after it right now. That's 5-0-1 so far in the NCAA first 4. I've yet to lose. 6 picks, 5 winners, no losses, right? More games going on right now. Like I said, go Musketeers. You know, they're starting to mount a little comeback as Texas jumped out on them. 23-17 right now, but there's 30 minutes left in this game. You ready? Let's do this. Away we go to episode number 31.
Just win, baby.
That's right, Al. You tell them. Let's get it all started tomorrow. 12:15 Eastern in the South Regional in Lexington on CBS. 8-seeded Louisville is a 2.5-point favorite versus 9th-seeded Creighton, and the total's 145.5. Prior to both schools losing in their conference tournaments, they both won 5 in a row. Big man Ryan Kalkbrenner leads the way for Creighton, and his size alone creates a problem for Louisville. But the Cardinals will counter with their athleticism. Javon Hadley is a beast on the glass, and he'll be tasked with slowing down Kalkbrenner while getting the ball out to guard Chucky Hepburn, right? You got to get him going because Hepburn's one of the best guards in the nation. This is a very good matchup, hence the tight number. And I like Creighton a lot, but Louisville might have got hosed here with an 8 seed, even though they're just going to Lexington after a very good season in the ACC. The Big East is tougher than the ACC, making Creighton the pick here, so I'm going to take the Blue Jays to get it all started, right? Plus 2.5 with a sprinkle.
Sprinkle me, man.
That a boy, Earl. And while we're at it, I also like under 145.5 here, as the Blue Jays will slow the pace down compared to Louisville. 12:40 Eastern in the Midwest region on True TV in Providence. 4-seed Purdue is an 8.5-point favorite versus 13th-seeded High Point, and the total set at 153.5. Purdue was taken out of the Big Ten tournament in the quarterfinals by eventual champion Michigan and are led by Big Ten Player of the Year Braden Smith and junior Trey Kaufman-Wren. High Point comes in having won 14 in a row, though, including taking out Winthrop in the Big South tournament final last week, which means the Panthers are well rested. They won 29 games this year, and that shit don't happen by accident. Purdue's a lot more balanced, but High Point has the 3-point shooters and play fast. I like Purdue to get the W, but I like High Point catching 8.5, and I'll take over 153.5. Moving on to the East Regional at 1:30 Eastern on TNT in Denver. 3 seed Wisconsin's a 16.5-point favorite versus 14th seeded Montana, and the total's 151. After losing their season finale at home to Penn State, Wisconsin won 3 games in 3 days in the Big Ten tournament by bombing away from downtown before bowing out to Michigan on Sunday in the Big Ten finals. John Tonji had a conference tournament for the ages and seemed to be unstoppable in wins over Northwestern, UCLA, and Michigan State. A case could be made that Tonji deserved Conference Player of the Year ahead of Smith, and the Badgers are going to need him to stay hot as far as Wisconsin advances. Montana comes in having won 25 games this season, including a Big Sky Conference tournament title, and they did it with their size and offensive efficiency where they just don't turn the ball over. I like Montana, but they're in trouble here. I like Wisconsin. I think they come in and they blow the doors off the Grizzlies. Badgers minus 16.5, over 151.5. Midwest region at 2 Eastern on TBS in Wichita. Top seed Houston's a huge 29-point favorite versus 16th seeded SIU Edwardsville, and the total's 126. It's rare to see that. Big number, low total. Houston has become a school that is always poised to make a deep run under Kelvin Sampson, and they look to take the next step this year and cut down the nets in 2.5 weeks. LJ Cryer has been around for a few of those deep runs for the Cougars, and he's Houston's leading scorer. But make no mistake about it, Houston gets it done defensively and on the glass. Edwardsville beat Southeast Missouri State to take down the Ohio Valley Conference Tournament title behind a gritty defense of their own. Rayshawn Taylor can fill it up and score on anyone, but he's going to be amazed at the defense he's going to see from Houston, who I believe plays harder than any team in the nation. 29 points, though? There's a chance that Houston wins this game 70-40, but I'm not buying it. Give me that candy. I'll take Edwardsville and every one of those 29 points and over 126.5. South Regional in Lexington, 2:50 Eastern on CBS. Top seeded Auburn's a 32.5-point favorite versus 16 seed Alabama State, and the total's 149.5. Bama State beat St. Francis in last night's first 4 matchup. You're welcome, one of my winners, with a miraculous last-second shot. Like I said, I had them, and I got the cover. And, well, I pushed the total, but I would have lost the total if the game went to overtime. So, anyway, the story of this game is all about Auburn. All right? Plain and simple. Any way you look at it. The number 1 overall seed in the tournament struggled by losing 3 of their last 4 down the stretch. And that's the narrative right now. Because what are they doing? They're clearly struggling.
Struggling.
What was that, Joe?
Struggling.
One more time, Joe.
Struggling.
Thanks, Joe. Needed that. The way I see it is this game here against Bama State is perfect for Auburn. The Tigers, because they can take out their anger. They can get up by 40, and they can rest Janai Broom and all the stars, and they still cover this obscene number. Yeah. War Eagle minus 32.5 and over 149.5. 3:15 Eastern in the Midwest region on True TV in Providence. 5 seed Clemson's a 7-point favorite over 12th seeded McNeese, and the total's 135. Clemson bowed out to Louisville in the ACC tournament, but were red hot going in by leaning on the inside-out game of Chase Hunter and big man Ian Shefflin. McNeese comes in having won 11 in a row and rolled basically unchallenged to the Southland Tournament Championship. It's Will Wade back in the tournament again for the Cowboys after being fired from Louisiana State right before the tournament began 4 years ago. But he's done nothing but win in Lake Charles, but certainly not Baton Rouge. Today it was announced, though, that he now has an agreement to take over in Raleigh at NC State next season, but he's still going to coach this one. We're all very aware of the 5-12 upsets that come frequently these days, but it ain't happening here. Clemson easy, -7 and under 135. East region, 4 Eastern on TNT in Denver. 6-seeded Brigham Young is a 3.5-point favorite versus 11-seed Virginia Commonwealth. And the total's 146. BYU made it to the Big 12 Tournament Championship on a roll before they ran into the buzzsaw that is Houston. Head coach Kevin Young has done a phenomenal job in Provo in his first year, and his offense can absolutely score early and often, both inside and out. VCU won the Atlantic 10 tournament in impressive fashion by taking out 3 very good squads down the stretch. The guard matchup here between Max Shulga of the Rams and Richie Saunders of the Cougars is going to be an excellent one, as anyone who knows anything about anything knows that guard play is what matters, and it's what's needed to go deep in March. VCU will do everything in their power to use their stingy defense to slow down BYU's offensive firepower, but they won't. Cougars minus 3.5, under 146. Midwest region, 4:35 Eastern on TBS in Wichita. 8-seed Gonzaga is a 5.5-point favorite versus 9th-seeded Georgia, and the total's 151.5. Georgia head coach Mark Few is no stranger to deep runs in the spring, as he's had his Bulldogs in 9 straight Sweet 16s. Despite this being an off year for the Zags, they still boast one of the most explosive offenses in the country behind slasher Graham Ike and arguably the nation's best point man in Ryan Nembhard. A big win over arch-rival St. Mary's in the Western Conference gives the Zags confidence, and they'll need it against the Georgia squad that cut its teeth in the rough-and-tumble SEC. Wins over Florida, Texas, and Vanderbilt to close out the season were nice before a first-round loss to Oklahoma in the SEC tournament. Georgia has the toughness to compete and possibly cover, but I have to roll with the Zags here. I'm going to lay the 5.5 along with over 151 and a hook. 6:50 Eastern in the Midwest Regional on TNT in Lexington. 2nd-seeded Tennessee is an 18.5-point favorite versus 15-seed Wofford, and the total's 133.5. UT made a heck of a run in the SEC tournament with wins over Texas and Auburn before running into Florida in the finals. Wofford, on the other hand, was beaten by Furman 3 weeks ago and then paid them back with a win in the championship of the Southern Tournament a week and a half ago. The drive from Knoxville to Lexington ain't that far, so expect Vol Nation to show up strong. Wofford can score, and Tennessee shuts down teams that can score. The 1-2 combo of Chaz Lanier and Zakai Ziegler is lethal for UT, which leaves me no choice but to roll with the Vols here, minus 18.5 and under 133 and a chunk. West Regional, 7:10 Eastern on CBS in Providence. 7th-seeded Kansas is a 5-point favorite versus 10-seed Arkansas, and the total's 145.5. The big story here is John Calipari versus Bill Self. That's a matchup with the winner likely to face Rick Pitino in the second round on Saturday. Both schools have had issues shooting and making free throws, as both rank near the bottom of the field in free throw and three-point percentage. The odd thing is that they both can score, and they both do it with athleticism and points in transition. They're both talented. They're both battle-tested in the 2 best conferences in the country. And while KU might sneak by, I'm on Arkansas right here. I have to be. Catching the 5 with a sprinkle.
Sprinkle me, man. Sprinkle.
Attaboy. And while we're at it, give me under 145.5. Excuse me. Let me take a quick swig here. Texas is opening up. They're up by 9 right now. All right. 7:25 Eastern in the South region on TBS in Denver. 4-seeded Texas A&M is a 7.5-point favorite over 13-seed Yale, and the total's 140.5. A&M was taken out by Texas in the second round of the SEC tournament, while Yale had issues, but still delivered a win in the finals of Ivy Madness. Both schools like to score, but they can also slow things down as well and work the clock. Yale knocked off Auburn in last year's NCAAs. The Bulldogs are once again a trendy pick for a first-round upset over another SEC school. A&M's great season ran into issues down the stretch of the regular season, but this is a very dangerous team with the depth to keep playing well into late March. Guard Wade Taylor IV leads the way for the Aggies, but they're going to have to slow down last year's tournament hero and Yale's leading scorer, John Poulakidis, the Greek, who comes in averaging just under 20 per. In what should be an entertaining matchup, I like A&M to advance, but Yale to keep it surprisingly close and come in under the number. Yale plus 7.5 over 140.5. West Region, 7:35 Eastern on True TV in Wichita. 6th-seeded Missouri is a 6.5-point favorite versus 11-seed Drake, and the total's 133.5. Missouri lost 3 in a row to close out the season, and after taking out Mississippi State in the second round of the SEC tournament, they fell to Florida in the quarterfinals. Drake, on the other hand, rolled to the Missouri Valley tournament title and came in on a 7-game heater. This one is a true dichotomy of styles. Drake has the slowest offense in the nation and prefer games to be played in the 50s, while Mizzou wants it played well into the 90s. I'm getting blown up here. These guys are they're killing me. Anyway, I'm gonna have to turn this off. The blow up is the blow up has clearly started. There we go. That's better. All right. Anyway, as I was saying, guard Bennett Sturtz is Drake's do-everything guard, while Missouri scores come at you in waves, and they push tempo all night. Drake, though, likes to walk it up the floor and play at a snail's pace. Drake's a popular upset pick because of the way Missouri struggled down the stretch and how hot the Bulldogs are with 30 wins. I like Mizzou to get it done, though, and advance to the second round. Missouri minus 6.5 over 133.5. 9:25 Eastern in Lexington on TNT at the Midwest region. 7th-seed UCLA is a 5.5-point favorite versus 10th-seeded Utah State, and the total's 144.5. UCLA's first season in the Big Ten was eventful, with ups and downs, and a quarterfinal loss to Wisconsin in the Big Ten tournament was as ugly as Wisconsin lit them up for 19 three-pointers. I mean, Utah State can fill it up, so I'm sure UCLA head coach Mick Cronin has been preaching perimeter defense to his boys, who are traditionally good defensively, and this year too, but they lack the toughness that Cronin's teams of the past had. Neither school here has someone that's capable of going for 30, as both teams use 4 or 5 off the bench. The Aggies will force tempo, and UCLA can play either way. UCLA is a trendy pick for a quick exit, but not here. Bruins minus 5.5 over 144 and a hook. West Region tomorrow night, 9:45 Eastern on CBS in Providence. 2nd-seeded St. John's, an 18.5-point favorite over 15-seed Omaha, and the total set at 147.5. St. John's has won 9 straight and capped it off by winning the Big East tournament in grand fashion for the first time in 30 years, as Rick Pitino has a squad that can contend for the title in 2 weeks. R.J. Lewis Jr. is the leading scorer for the Redmen. Yes, I still call them the Redmen, but they get it done defensively with one of the most impressive full-court traps since Dr. Tom Davis's Iowa squads back in the 80s and 90s. Yeah, I know, I just aged myself. Omaha comes in having won 6 straight and won the Summit League tournament pretty easily. They're going to have their hands full with the Johnnies, though. While St. John's wins this one easily and advances, is 18.5 too many to lay? I don't think so, because of the Johnnies' press and defense. St. John's minus 18.5, under 147.5. 10 Eastern in the South region on TBS in Denver. 5th-seeded Michigan is a 2.5-point favorite over 12th-seed UC San Diego, and the total's 143. Michigan was impressive in their run to the Big Ten tournament title by taking out Purdue, Maryland, and Wisconsin along the way with timely buckets and a good defense. San Diego comes in winners of 15 in a row, including the Big West tournament with their last loss way back in mid-January. Remember the name if you can pronounce it, but it's Anawanawa Tate Jones. He leads the Tritons in scoring, rebounding, and assists. This guy is going to be all over the floor and will cause Michigan fits. Sure, Michigan is the 5, having won the Big Ten tournament, and they're a hot commodity right now. But San Diego's no joke. Here's my 5-12 upset, and while it's not a big upset because it's trendy, hence the 2.5-point number, people are going to take UCSD with the points as an upset. Normally, I would go the other way, but not here. I have to. UC San Diego plus 2.5 with a sprinkle.
Sprinkle me, man.
That a boy, Earl. That a kid. Keep them coming, baby. While we're at it, give me one under 143 and a chunk. And the late game tomorrow night is in the West region at 10:10 Eastern on True TV in Wichita, where third-seeded Texas Tech's a 15.5-point favorite over 14-seed NC Wilmington, and the total's 143.5. Tech won 6 in a row before falling to Arizona in the quarterfinals of the Big 12 tournament, while Wilmington's won 7 straight, including the Colonial Championship. Tech comes in ranked 9th in the nation in the rough-and-tumble Big 12, where they've been basically the second-best team all season. Wilmington has a balanced and deep squad that can cause a lot of problems. But Tech has the athleticism to run away with this one. That's too many points, though. Raiders win, but Seahawks climb through the back door. Wilmington plus 15.5 and over 143.5. Moving on to Friday, first round action. Let's get it started 12:15 Eastern in the East region on CBS in Raleigh, where 8-seed Mississippi State's a 1.5-point chalk versus 9th-seeded Baylor, and the total's 144.5. Both teams were eliminated in the second rounds of their respective tournaments, Baylor by Texas Tech and Mississippi State by Missouri. Both have had their ups and downs, but that happens in the Big 12 and the SEC. Josh Hubbard's Mississippi State's assassin, while Baylor head coach Scott Drew believes in defense. Hail State has lost 3 out of 4, while Baylor 2 out of 3. This is a classic tight 8 versus 9 matchup with a low spread, and I'm going to dance with the Bears here. Baylor plus 1.5 with a sprinkle.
Sprinkle me, man.
Add a kid, Earl. While I'm at it, I'll take under 144.5. Friday in the East region at 12:40 Eastern on True TV in Cleveland. Second-seeded Alabama is a 22.5-point favorite versus 15-seed Robert Morris, and the total's 165.5. Bama's Bama, and they're going to score. All right, we know that. Sure, they've lost 3 out of 5, but those losses were to Tennessee and twice to Florida, including the semifinals of the SEC tournament. But they have wins over Auburn and Kentucky mixed in there. Robert Morris, lovingly referred to by yours truly as Bobby Moe, has won 10 straight, including a Horizon tournament title. The Colonials can score and they can rebound, but every single metric has Bama with the edge. There's a reason why they're 22.5-point chalk. Mark Sears is the guy for Bama, but Mohamed Diabate, Grant Nelson, and freshman stud LeBaron Philon all can get to the rim, and they can all fire from downtown as well. Bama is balls to the wall and wants to score 120 every time out. 22.5, though? Nope. Bobby Moe's covered a lot of numbers for me this year, and I think they'll do it again. Robert Morris, plus 22.5 and under 165 and a chunk. South region, 1:30 Eastern on TNT in Milwaukee. 3-seed Iowa State's a 14.5-point favorite over 14-seeded Lipscomb, and the total's 143.5. Iowa State finished 24-9 in the Big 12, which is no joke at all. And they do it the old-fashioned way, defense and rebounding. Curtis Jones, their leading scorer, and while he can get hot, he's not going to light the world on fire. It's the Cyclones' depth and athleticism that makes them dangerous. Lipscomb, for those of you that don't know, is a small private college right here in Nashville. That gives Music City 2 schools in the tournament and the state of Tennessee 4. And we were a hair away from getting 6 in with Middle Tennessee and Chattanooga, who played a classic last night in the NIT, by the way. Lipscomb's won 7 in a row, including rolling through the Atlantic Sun tournament to claim that title, and they're led by big man Jacob Ognasevich. The Bisons can score, and they want to push the pace as they're 11th in the nation in scoring. Iowa State's going to physically pound away, and they're going to get the win. But I'm on the Bisons here, catching 14.5 and over 143.5. Friday in the West Regional at 2 Eastern on TBS in Seattle. 125th. That's obviously a mistake there. Hold on. 12th seeded. Let's try that. I put in 125th seeded Colorado State. No. 12th seeded Colorado State is a 2.5-point favorite versus 5 seed Memphis. And the total is 147.5. Another Tennessee team, by the way. Both teams come in smoking hot as Memphis won the American tournament and Colorado State took down all comers to capture the Mountain West title. Memphis is ranked 15th and is easily Anthony Hardaway's best team, and they survived a couple of major scares in the American tournament. Colorado State has been rolling, and they've been undervalued all season, primarily by me, as I've lost many wagers fading them. PJ Haggerty and Dane Danger are legit for the Tigers, while Nick Clifford does everything for the Rams. Get to know that name too if you haven't seen him this year. Nick Clifford, he does it all. A 12 seed is a 2.5-point favorite? Of course they are. Colorado State minus 2.5 and under 147 and a chunk. East Region at 2:50 Eastern on CBS in Raleigh. Top seeded Duke is a huge 31.5-point favorite over 16th seeded Mount St. Mary's, and the total set at 143. With every game that Duke advances, the more questions about Cooper Flagg will increase. If you've been living under a rock and didn't get the memo, Flagg injured his ankle in the ACC tournament semis and hasn't played since. He's going to go tomorrow, and Duke will win easily. And some are going so far as to say that Duke should sit him this entire weekend so he's ready for the Sweet 16. Duke winning Friday is not the question. Are 31 too many? Mount St. Mary's won the Metro Atlantic Athletic Tournament by relying on defense and rebounding. Just a little while ago, though, a strange thing happened. The Mountaineers found their offense, and they lit up American in the first 4 to advance. And yes, your boy had both MSM and the over. You're welcome. This one's a different story, with or without Flagg, though. Duke minus 31.5 and under 143. East Region, 3:15 Eastern on True TV in Cleveland. 7 seed St. Mary's, a 3.5-point favorite versus 10th seeded Vanderbilt, and the total's 136.5. Vanderbilt, another Tennessee school. Vandy likes to score, and St. Mary's doesn't. St. Mary's rebounds like there's no tomorrow, and Vanderbilt doesn't. St. Mary's had a phenomenal run through the West Coast Conference all season before falling to Gonzaga in the tournament finals. Vandy comes in, lost 3 straight, but they were all to tournament teams. Augustus Marshallonis, yes, he's Sharunas' son, calmly leads the Gales offense while Jason Edwards can fill it up quickly for the Commodores. I like Vandy a lot, especially being in the SEC and dealing with a very tough schedule. But St. Mary's is the play here. They have to be. Gales minus 3.5, under 136.5. Halftime, Texas is up, but what bothers me is by how many points were scored. Jesus, both teams came out. Man, Tremont Mark, he got hot and filled it up. 11 points at the break. Oof, good Lord. They're on pace for 160 points. I had the under in this one. Doesn't look good, but it's a whole second half to go. Anyway, South Region, 4:05 Eastern on TNT in Milwaukee. 11th seeded North Carolina is a 1.5-point favorite versus 6th seed Mississippi, and the total's 155.5. Carolina blew out San Diego last night in the first 4 matchup in Dayton to prove to themselves, if not Carolina fans, that they deserved a spot in the tournament, and now they find themselves a short favorite over a good 6 seed. Sure, Ole Miss lost 2 of their last 3, but those 2 L's were to Auburn and Florida, all right? Both number 1 seeds in this tournament. Their last 3 wins were over Arkansas, Tennessee, and Oklahoma, whom I believe are all better than North Carolina. Sean Padula is a very efficient point guard. He's going to eat R.J. Davis for lunch because as good as a scorer as Davis is, he doesn't play defense. I'm all over Ole Miss here. Catching a point and a hook with a sprinkle.
Big timer.
Yeah, let's do the whole thing. Come with it. What is it?
Sprinkle me,
It's not a kid. And I'll also roll with under 156 in that one. 4:35 Eastern in the West region on TBS in Seattle. 4-seeded Maryland is 10.5 point chalk versus 13-seed Grand Canyon, and the total's 150.5. Maryland was on a roll before getting bounced out of the Big Ten tournament semis by Michigan, and they're led by Big Ten Freshman of the Year and first team All Big Ten Derek Queen. This guy, oh man. Grand Canyon head coach Bryce Drew, yes, the famous Valparaiso Bryce Drew, after spending 3 years here in Music City at Vanderbilt, has the Antelopes in the dance for the third straight year after they won the WAC tournament. They won 26 games, and that's not an accident by any means. They do it with depth that features a 10-man rotation, and they love to push the pace. So does Maryland. Check out Derek Queen and watch him go off. Fear the Turtle, Maryland, minus 10.5, over 150.5. West Region, 6:50 Eastern on TNT in Raleigh. Top-seeded Florida is a 28.5 point chalk versus 16-seed Norfolk State, and the total's 153.5. I honestly believe, looking at the bracket, that Maryland in the Sweet 16 and St. John's in the Elite 8 could be the only potential roadblocks in Florida's trip to the Final Four. Because the Gators are looking every bit like the best team in the nation heading into the show, and Norfolk ain't it. The Gators' exploits are public knowledge, but Norfolk has had a great year and rolled to the MEAC tournament title, where they were rewarded by having to square off against the Gators. Brian Moore Jr. can fill it up for the Spartans, but the Gator athleticism is just way too much for Norfolk to deal with. But at 28.5, I have no choice but to take the Spartans. Norfolk plus 28.5, over 153.5. Midwest region, 7:10 Eastern on CBS in Milwaukee. Third-seeded Kentucky is an 11.5 point favorite over 14-seed Troy, and the total's 152.5. Kentucky got crushed in the SEC tournament quarterfinals by Alabama. I was there, I saw it. And they've had more stumbles along the way than they would have liked. They're the much better team, especially with Lamont Butler in the lineup, who's banged up with a bum shoulder. And while he's going to give it a go, he's certainly nowhere near 100%. Troy's won 6 straight, including a pretty easy ride in their Sun Belt tournament title with depth and a balanced offense. They can cause trouble for the Wildcats. And while they may not get the W, they're certainly going to cover the number. I'll dance with the Trojans here, catching 11.5 and under 152.5. South Regional, 7:25 Eastern on TBS in Cleveland. 7-seed Marquette is a 3.5 point favorite versus 10th-seeded New Mexico, and the total's 154. Marquette has lost 3 out of 4, including a second-round exit from the Big East tournament, as St. John's went right through them. New Mexico was red hot until they were upset by Boise State in the Mountain West quarterfinals, but they're still good enough to get an at-large bid. All the stats and analytics get thrown out the window here, as you can sit back and enjoy a fantastic matchup between two of the best guards in the nation. Marquette's Cam Jones and Mountain West Player of the Year, New Mexico's Donovan Dent. It may be blasphemy to call Dent a human highlight reel since there was only one of those. Neek, my boy. But Dent is incredible. So is Jones, too. Richard Pitino and Shaka Smart also make for a good, interesting coaching duel. I like Marquette here because a lot of people like New Mexico in an upset. Marquette minus 3.5 over 154.5. 7:35 Eastern in the East Regional on True TV in Seattle. 4th-seeded Arizona is a 14.5 point favorite over 13-seed Akron, and the total's 166.5. Zona, in their first year in the Big 12, made it all the way to the tournament final, where Houston took them out. while Akron ripped off 7 in a row en route to a MAC tournament title where they needed everything they had to hold off a very gay Miami, Ohio squad. Arizona likes to score and push the pace, led by Caleb Love. But if they like to turn the game into a track meet, Akron takes it to another level. Their frenetic pace and depth makes for a fun watch, and they're going to score and keep scoring. But Zona's still the play here. Wildcats minus 14.5, 166.5. Because in order to cover 14.5, Zona's going to have to score 95, which they will. West Region, 9:25 Eastern on TNT in Raleigh. 8 seed and 2-time defending national champion Connecticut begins their quest for a third straight title as 4.5-point chalk over 9 seed Oklahoma, and the total set at 147.5. Everyone pretty much universally agrees that UConn is not the same team they've been the last 2 years, especially last year where they blew everyone out. They were beaten by Creighton in the second round of the Big East tournament, while Oklahoma lost a heartbreaker in the second round of the SEC tournament to Kentucky. This is a dangerous team that, given the right circumstances, can beat anyone. Now, while they may not get the W, I do like the Sooners here, catching 4.5 with a sprinkle.
Sprinkle me, man.
That a kid. And also give me under 147.5. Midwest Region, 9:45 Eastern on CBS in Milwaukee. 6-seeded Illinois is waiting to see who wins this game between Xavier and Texas. I'll get to that later. Won't have the numbers, but I'll get to that later. So Illinois is waiting to see who they're going to face off with. South Region, 10 Eastern on TBS in Cleveland. 2-seed Michigan State's an 18-point favorite versus 15th-seeded Bryant, and the total's 152. Sparty was on a heater to close the season before getting upended by a hot-shooting Wisconsin squad in the Big Ten semis. But nonetheless, they clearly earned a 2-seed behind Tom Izzo's signature. Defense, rebounding, defense, depth, defense, and toughness, and depth, and defense. Did I mention defense? Bryant comes in having won 6 straight by cruising to the America East tournament title with their high-scoring offense. But they rank 9th in the nation. Keep that in mind. MSU is just simply too much here. But because of the Bulldogs' penchant for scoring, I'll gladly take the 18 points and over 152. And finally, in the East Region at 10:10 Eastern on True TV in Seattle. 5th-seeded Oregon's a 7.5-point favorite versus 15-seed Liberty, and the total's 139. Oregon had a solid first year in the Big Ten, and they were dismissed by Michigan State in the tournament quarterfinals. But this is a good team that's very well coached and deep. Liberty's won 13 out of 14, including a very easy trip to the Conference USA tournament title. Liberty is rare in that they're in the top 10 field goal percentage, but are 340th in free throw percentage. Oregon's better, deeper, and Dana Altman just doesn't lose in the first round. Not only do they win, but they also get the cover. Quack attack. Quack, quack, quack. Minus 7.5 over 139 in the Degenerate Special. The late night get right. That's 31 plays for the first round of the tournament, with only Texas and Xavier still pending. I'll have that pick for you tomorrow in the comment section of this video, so make sure to look back. Now, check back Saturday morning for Stoniecast 170, where I'm going to have all 16 second-round matchups for you, spanning Saturday and Sunday, as well as second-round NIT plays. So until then, just remember that if you want to win big, you got to bet big. You can't go broke taking a profit. Scared money don't make money. For me, the action is the juice. The difference between winning and making money is that anyone can win betting chalk, but you can't make money unless you take the dogs. Do you want to win or do you want to make money? You got to figure it out. It's one or the other. There's money on the streets that can't be ignored. And finally, good luck to you. And I still miss you, Gooch. I wish you were here. I wish you were here because this is a great time of year for you.
Pay him. Pay that man his money.